Hi, everybody. I'm John Self. Welcome to Office Hours. We're delighted to have you today. We've got a great program signed up, ready to go for you, racked up in the studio, ready to go. Today, we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people have been, communicating with me about lately, and that is they're tired of going through all the process of, getting rejected, not hearing anything from the employer, and then when they finally get something back, maybe 2 or 3 times out of 100, and they get into the interview process, they don't seem to close the deal. They don't seem to make it all the way home. It's a very, very competitive market, and I will tell you right now, it's going to get more competitive as we go forward. There's just no if, ands, and buts about it, as my father used to say. It's gonna get tough, and it doesn't really matter who's elected. The economic cycle we're in now is not sustainable long term, and so I think we really should expect a slowdown in employment or slowdown in hiring. If we get into a tariffs issue, the economists for the Wall Street Journal have all said, that'll probably produce higher prices. People will probably slow down in buying, which will produce more layoffs, et cetera. Just kind of one of those cycles that we go through. So, and even if we continue with the administration or part of the administration that's there now, the economic cycle will come to an end. 44 months of uninterrupted employment is not a record. I think Obama had 74, 75 uninterrupted months, but 44 for a one-term president is not too bad. But every economic cycle, regardless who's in office, will come to an end. So you just need to be prepared for that. And as additional people flood into the market looking for jobs, that's going to exacerbate the white collar problem with executive and management positions where we already have a real imbalance between too many people and too few jobs. So, in order to avoid losing, you have to really think about charting a bold course, not only mentally, but in terms of your preparation, your commitment to doing everything you possibly can do to be sure that you are the best the best on the panel. People don't like to think of job search this way, but it is absolutely a competitive zero sum game, excuse me. It means that somebody's going to win and three, four, five people are going to lose. If you're tired of losing, if that's a problem for you, I can help you. You're not going to get every job that comes along because, regardless who your coach is, there's so many factors that go into the performance. But I can give you a system and I can teach you how to get prepared for a job interview to substantially improve your chances. Okay, end of sales pitch. That's all we're going to talk about today on that subject. Now, as we talk about move forward and we talk about the job conditions, I know a lot of people, really good people, great performers, ethical people who had great reputations who've really struggled. And part of the reason they struggle is they didn't have a really robust network. Some people I know had a good network, but they only had two or three people that, were consistently trying to help them. They really had a lot of other people that they did not have a lot of commonality with. They hadn't done anything really to foster a relationship. Well, the risk to your career of not building a professional network is absolutely dead bang akin to the verifiable risk cigarettes pose to your health. So if you don't smoke because you worry about your health, then you'd better start networking and learn how to do it so that your career doesn't hit a dead end or often go off in a ditch. The people who don't have a network that's aligned with their goals, that's aligned with the vertical and where they want to go. If they want to become a CEO, then what are the intermediate steps and who do I need to know to help me to get to those points? Because the odds are so amazingly bad, they suck so awful when you're just trying to apply online. I mean, you're making your life miserable. So get that network. They'll help you in the side door, and you reduce your odds from 200 to 1 to maybe 16 to 1. So that is something you really, really must consider going forward. As I, as I've said many, many times, the career landscape is really dramatically shifting under our feet. Now, if you look at my epic journey, and this is you need who I am. You don't have to care about me, but you need to know who I am. It would not have been possible if I relied on yesterday's job search strategies. And yet that's what a lot of people are doing. They don't realize that things have changed. I mean, they've heard about it, but many people have not experienced it firsthand. And so they go back, and the default position is the way I've always done it. And it's really hard to get some people to change because that's just been ingrained in us for 15, 20 years. Some people just cannot turn on a dime. And I enjoy change, but there are times when I struggle with it. So this is really, really important. You cannot minimize this issue. You need to stop looking in the rearview mirror to advance your career. That's really a bad tactic. It's not going to get you where you need to be. It's only going to slow you down in your search, and it's already going to take you. The cadence for finding a new employment now is anywhere between 8 and 14 months at the executive level. That's man. If you don't have severance or you don't have much severance, that's a long time. So you need to stop using the rearview mirror to advance your career. I think this is without question, and I've gone through my notes and thought about all the coaching sessions I've done over the last couple of years. This is probably one of the most grievous subconscious mistakes executives make with their career. So you may feel comfortable with the OA. You may not feel that it's really that big a deal. That it's really not going to hurt you that much because you've got a great record, you've got a good history, and great. But I know some people who are great performers, have a great history, are smart as hell. They don't have a network, and they're in the ditch. Why? Because they are having to go through the computers to get to the hiring authority. And that's the worst possible way, to find a job. Unless you enjoy rejection, unless you want to submit 100 to 200 job applications to get 4 or 5 opportunities. I mean, that's a lot of rejection. So I really encourage you to start changing your mindset. Begin shifting from the rear to look forward. It's going to take a lot of effort. Now, I've seen this many times as well. A lot of executives, when they start talking about their career, and they hear all the stories, but they're not going to admit that they don't really know what's going on. They're going to trust their gut. Well, that's another bad idea since your gut is likely anchored, more than likely anchored in your past experiences. So don't trust your gut. You would not go start a new business if you didn't understand it. Well, you might, but you'd have disastrous consequences. So you wouldn't run a company without a plan. Well, you might, but not without disastrous circumstances. So it's a bad idea to trust your gut. It's a bad idea to look in the rearview mirror and associate your job search with those old realities because those are gone, baby, gone. I think the best advice here is just take a time out. Now, if you lost your job, the first thing you want to do is you're pretty worried about compensation. You're really worried about the whole issue of paying bills, not being left homeless. And, some people in the last go round ended up homeless. People that had never encountered that in their lives. They had some kids, some medical expenses, some family issues, and they couldn't keep up with all the payments. And it really, really wrecked them. They will come back. Most people do come back, but it may take them 10 years to get out of the bankruptcy and all the entanglements with the hospital bills and everything else. So it's really important that you really pay attention to the job search career management piece because that is an issue that absolutely can wreck your career or it can accelerate your career. So take some time to understand the changes. We're here every Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday at noon, Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And if you're a member of our Your Career community, these programs are available to you at no additional cost. For new members, there is an enrollment fee, a $79 a month fee, and you get amazing discounts on our programs from our premium platinum package. You can buy them on discounts on an a la carte basis. So we're still in the process of loading all that up. But if you have some needs now and you need some help now, call me. Okay. You can find my telephone number on our webpage. You can always email me at john@johngself.com. But the first thing we're going to do, if you want me to help you, we're going to take a time out to help you understand the changes before you move forward. The last thing I want to hear from somebody who hasn't been in the job market 5 years is, I got it. I don't need to spend any time on this. Yeah, you do, because people make amazing mistakes because in the heat of an interview or in the rush of job search, trying to manage 2 or 3 projects, they revert to the default position, and it's not a good idea. Now, career hopes and your dreams die on the altar of "I'll get to it later." Most executives I have found do not until it's too late. I've had 2 people the last couple of weeks say, "Look, my job's good. I'm good. I don't need to worry about that now." That could turn on a dime. It could turn on a dime. It has for some people. People who've been with Google for 20, 25 years have been laid off. They never thought that would happen. And they all got caught flat-footed. And though Google's a major, amazing company, and they've done a lot of interesting things, even though their search engine is now screwed up beyond belief, they don't necessarily provide their employees with a great severance package. The rudimentary outplacement with some big national firm that just follows a bare minimums template. And after 6 months of severance or whatever, they're on their own. Well, the problem is 8 to 14 months is the time to hire cadence. So, these are really important. Don't wait until you've gotten the tap on the shoulder or that proverbial pink slip in your paycheck. If you wait that long, the time it takes to get up to speed is about 60 days to really be comfortable and competitive, so that that you can respond instinctively. But if you're not ready, the instincts that you draw on will be the instincts from the rearview mirror. That will screw up a search really quickly. So let's talk about what you're gonna have to do. I mean, this is not, oh, good idea stuff. No, this is absolutely what you must do if you want to be successful. Whether you're going to go start a company, whether you're going to go buy a business, whether you're going to pursue traditional employment, you absolutely have to do these things. First of all, you got to be really concerned about your brand and your reputation. Okay. If you're staying in the job market, you're going to be identified by computers, not necessarily recruiters going through a stack of resumes. This is all moving to automation, high speed automation. And before you know it, resumes that we all love to hate won't even be relevant anymore. They're going to be using LinkedIn profiles almost exclusively. You also have to worry in terms of your brand and your reputation. You also have to really fill uh, a like a form of commitment and performance. The Navy, in their annual reports for a promotion, they always evaluate the officers up for promotion. Did you provide sustained superior performance? Having great degrees, having great, experience, having certifications is absolutely not going to carry the day if your performance is pretty spotty, if it's up and down. So you absolutely have to. Job one is do the job you have now exceptionally well. Don't just meet standards, exceed standards. And that may mean a little overtime. That may mean a little sacrifice from your family. But let me tell you something. That's a lot better than being out of work for 12 months. The networking 3.0, that's a form of networking that's tied to a career plan. If you're a premium member of our platinum program, we're going to help you write your career plan for you. We're going to help you write a job search plan. Now, if you're a member, you can buy that stuff independently, but you need to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you will not hold yourself accountable, and your search will drag on unnecessarily long. After networking, and it needs to really follow your plans, you may say, look, I'm tired of wanting to be a hospital CEO. That is a shrinking industry. There's so many people that want that. I want to pursue something else. Okay. What is that? And we go through a process of identifying what the options are. Buying a business. I'm not a keen guy on franchises because that sucks up a lot of capital. But there's a real wide sweeping trend now where baby boomers, and there are a lot of them, are trying to sell their well-established, successful, cash flowing businesses. And, and if you go into them and you buy it on owner financing and give them more money for the business than they're asking with a lower interest rate, that is a great way to get into business. And you do your homework to be sure it's cash flowing and that you can pay the mortgage. But it's a great way to buy business without having to put a lot of your assets or a lot on the line in terms of bank loans. Those you have to think about networking on all fronts. Wherever you're going to go, your networking has to reflect your goal, where you're going. If it doesn't, you may have a bunch of people over here in the healthcare vertical in your network, and now you're over here in construction, or you're over here in education services, or hospitality. I mean, there's just, I mean, there, you so you see what I'm saying. You need to align your networking efforts with where you're going, and if you don't, it's going to be a waste. You must be sure that you have an active branding and social media presence. If you're not comfortable with this, we can help you understand it. We can help you get comfortable with it. We can give you some design tips on your page. And finally, the most important thing, and this is where aside the fact that it takes so much effort just to get to the interview table, this this place, interviewing skills, these are absolutely, this is where the jobs are won or lost. Okay, and you cannot ignore these pillars. They are absolutely essential. So please, start approaching your job search with a sense of I've got to up my game performance. I have to improve. If I don't, I'm going to let somebody that's not very good, that doesn't have the game plan I have, that doesn't have the performance I have, beat me in a job interview. How embarrassing is that? Don't let that happen to you. So you start off by drilling down to find your strengths and value. If you can't communicate in a powerful, compelling, meaningful way what your value is, you are in trouble. It's hopeless. You will not be able to get through the interview process successfully. And if you don't have a robust digital brand, that you're never going to be found. Right now, some of the recruiters are still doing things manually, but that's not going to last. I mean, this stuff is happening fast. Okay. In terms of speed, let me digress for a minute. Earlier this week in our newsletter, Guiding Your Career Report, I talked about the driverless cars, and a lot of people think that's still pie in the sky. That's not really, they hear about the Teslas, that people have had bad accidents, and they just dismiss it as something that's not ready for prime time, and it's not really happening. Oh, you're mistaken. Waymo, which is a subsidiary of Alphabet, which owns Google, has a division for cars and trucks, and it uses sensors. It's not the self-driving gobbledygook that the Elon Musk came up with. This is a lot of sensors, and it has a lot of equipment on the car, and so it's a different experience. Waymo is carrying 100,000 paid rides a week in 3 cities: Los Angeles, not known for their underutilized expressways; Phoenix, which doesn't have many expressways; and San Francisco, which has its own unique traffic challenges. They had some problems initially in San Francisco. They figured out what it was and corrected that problem. They now are operating with a low incident rate, probably not any higher than what you would if you owned a car service or with Uber. And it's interesting, their cars that they're using are Jaguar, the small Jaguar version. And when you talk about 100,000 people, you do paying for rides every week, and I know people who've used them and love it, and they said it felt really weird at first. They were a little antsy, but after you do it 2 or 3 times, you realize how reliable the technology is. Now, if you live in Texas, this will be a surprise. If you drive between Houston and Dallas, in 2021, JB Hunt, the big international logistics and trucking company, began testing driverless 18-wheelers delivering freight between Houston and Dallas. They had co-pilots in the truck, but not behind the wheel. These trucks delivered over 825,000 pounds of freight on time without incident. This is happening. Everybody thinks it's still a ways off. Nope, it's right around the corner. So you have to understand how to adapt your career from a branding point of view, from a marketing point of view, to all of this technology that's coming along. You can't try to keep one foot in the analog world and move into the digital world. It just won't work. Customizing your resume is still an essential thing. It's a pain in the butt. Be careful how you use Chat GPT. Clients are becoming extremely sophisticated at detecting Chat GPT resumes. And if it's for a very competitive job where you may have a couple of hundred people apply and they're asking for cover letters, people say it's remarkable how many of those cover letters are written in the same language with the same phrases, and you could tell they're all alike. The goal here is not to be like everybody, not to be like everybody else. The goal here is to differentiate yourself from your competitor, the guy that's trying to beat you over the head and get the job. So you may not like customizing your resume manually, but you have to be very careful about relying solely on Chat GPT. Okay. There at this point on certain elements of automation, there are still something called the law of unintended consequences. You absolutely have to take the time and pay attention to videos and articles. Business Insider is a great source of information. The Wall Street Journal has a lot of career articles that you need to maybe try to see if you can figure out some way to get that. It's Rupert Murdoch, God knows, has a pretty regressive paywall, and I can occasionally send articles to one or two people or three people, but I can't distribute it over my client base because that would be a violation of the corporate copyright. And that's not fair to the newspaper. So, there are a lot of resources out there. Pay attention. Look for free newsletters. Look for ways to get additional information. Our newsletter in the morning covers what happens when you get rejected by the computer and you still want to work for the company. Do you just revise the resume and send it back in? No, because you've already been coded as not qualified for that position. If you don't have a network, who's going to help you? Well, we talk about some strategies to do that in the Guiding Your Career report that debuts at 6:30 tomorrow morning Central Time. Now, a lot of people come into the interviewing process with a lot of myths. Oh, it's just about showing up and answering questions. No, that's wrong. If you do that, you'll probably be eliminated. It's about showing up and answering their questions this way. The value and how you're going to use your value, your experiences to solve their problems, to make their organization better. Most people just talk about their experience. That doesn't work anymore. Everybody's experienced, and everybody expects the client to be smart enough to figure that out. Listen, some of them, if you look at 12 candidates and 12 employers, it would be a close race to see who was the least prepared for the interview. Okay, recruiters have complained for years about candidates, even good ones, showing up really not ready for prime time. Well, guess what? Employers interview people all the time and haven't even read their resume, done no research, didn't look at their LinkedIn profile, nothing. So if you're going to ask, those are the people you're asking to conclude based on your resume and based on your answers that you could do the job. No, don't ask them to conclude because they'll get the wrong answer. Tell them how you can help them. You don't have to be arrogant. We're not talking about chest pounding answers here. We're talking about helping them connect your value, your experience, and to say on this issue, I really feel comfortable that I'm going to be able to handle that in a pretty rapid point of time. I've done it twice before, and both times I was able to complete this turnaround under budget and ahead of schedule. Now that's my language. But you have to think about how the words and the phrases and the stories you want to tell to illustrate that point. If you just wait for them to figure it out, you're looking in the rearview mirror again. That's not going to work anymore. It's impossible to anticipate questions. Wrong. It is very possible to anticipate questions. First of all, there are not that many questions that you can be asked in a job interview. There are behavior and values questions, and then there are the core questions like how many days of cash on hand did you have? What were some of your metrics? If you show up in an interview and you don't know your metrics, shame on you. because the guy that comes in after you, who's got it all organized and in his brain and ready to go because he spent a lot of time prepping for the interview, and he starts rolling off about how he did this and they made a 40% increase in sales that yielded this much money in gross revenue, and we did it over this period of time. Great. That's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear that I improved revenue over 18%. 18% of what? If you got two people talking about 18%, and one of them says 18% of $5 million and another one doesn't say, and it's a small company, I mean, 18% of $5,000 ain't that much money. Okay. So understand you've got to be prepared. And this is why you must keep a journal, because people don't remember these important numbers. And in the past, it wasn't necessary. It has been increasingly important over the last 5 to 7 years. But now it's imperative that you have that information. So if you don't start keeping a journal tomorrow, you're dead bang crazy. Why would you want to give up a great job, a dream job, because you didn't have the resources, you didn't have the information that would have helped you sell yourself to this client that you really, really want to work for? Because you were lazy and didn't do journaling. Get into the habit, get off your duff and start doing it every day. If you're working now and you're accomplishing things, do that. Okay, if you don't want to keep a journal, then create a file called winners. Every time you have a big win, put all the information in the file, copy it, Xerox it, whatever, drop it in the file so you have a point of reference when you're in a competitive job search. This will refresh your memory and make you a better interviewer. Listen, people aren't born good interviewers, hardly. Most of them are pretty bad. My resume covers my accomplishments. The employer will have to figure it out. We've already talked about that. They usually don't get the right answer. It's like the old line that, if you depend on somebody else to tell your story, you won't like what they say. Well, you got to assume the same thing comes up when you talk about your accomplishments. You have to define your success. You have to define your value. You have to define that you're better than everybody else, because that's who's going to get hired. I do not need to ask questions about performance expectations or culture. Oh, really? That's a big mistake, and that has already come back to bite people. For some reason, people don't want to ask about culture. They think it's impolite, I guess. I don't know. But that's one of the key reasons that executives don't even last 2 years in a job. I mean, the numbers are horribly bad. So ask the questions about the culture. If they don't give you a really deep answer, go, wow, and smile and say, that's really interesting. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. Those are great, legitimate questions to ask. Recruiters are lame when it comes to corporate culture, especially corporate recruiters, because they don't want to say anything that will upset the candidate, because they're under a lot of pressure, time to hire, cost to hire. And if they don't get it done in a hurry, their job's at risk. So a recruiter, whether it's a search firm or whether it's an internal recruiter, their weak spot, their Achilles heels is they don't want to tell you all the truth. They don't want to tell you about all the problems, or if they do, they want to sugarcoat them, because if you're a really good candidate, they don't want you pulling out, because then their client may get mad. And my point is, when I was a recruiter, one of the reasons we had such a sterling reputation and such a sterling track record is because I prepared deep documents that basically disclosed all the challenges and all the problems they're going to have to deal with. I once had a public hospital CFO of a very large hospital say, absolutely, this cannot be in this prospectus. I said, why? Well, because they won't come here if they know this is going on. And my response was, Gail, don't you think this is the least embarrassing time for them to find out? Not telling people is unfair and it's unethical, blatantly unethical. So cut that crap out. If you're a recruiter, or if you're an internal recruiter, or if you're an employer, be honest with people. Talk about areas that you believe, tell them the truth, because these people may have better solutions for you. But let me tell you something. You bring a candidate in and they feel ambushed by a lot of issues, they may not stay with you, and you're looking at wasting a lot of money just trying to then hire somebody else. Be honest, be forthright, Ask for their opinions about how they would approach that subject. That makes the interview more interactive and more relevant, more timely. Okay, there's a two-step process I want to talk to you about now that's going to help you master the job interview. Now, the course that I teach is a two-part course. When I did it for ACHE for 10 years, we spent 90 minutes just touching the surface. So, there are two techniques out there, or two systems. One is called STAR, and I never was a keen believer in STAR because it doesn't really help people come up with the answers that they need to have. It's a formula of the components of what you need to say, but not how you say it. So we created something called core and categorical interview worksheets. The core questions and the categorical questions, behavior and values, and the data questions. And if you do use these two worksheets, it will elevate your performance if you put in the time and rehearse. Okay, so what is STAR? It's situation, task, action, and result. Things that you would, if you were talking to an employer and you were talking about one of your successes, these are things that you would just have as core components in your answer. Okay, this will help you organize your thoughts and the stories and your answers you want to give. Core and categorical plays a different role. Okay, and this is important because this is a worksheet that helps you think about your strengths. Okay, you've got the facts. Now let's talk about how to present those facts in a way that sells the client, that sells the prospective employer. Every job has categories: operations, finance, sales and revenue, human capital, governance, reporting structure, the board or a senior executive. And everybody has strengths and weaknesses. So what you want to do is create your value brand statement. People who have a VBS and people who use it, not just write it and then forget about it, but use it, do a better job interviewing. We've looked at this for years. And the people that before I started coaching, one of the reasons I became such a big devotee of this is because I would realize that if people really had good first answer, when I would say, tell me about yourself, if they started going through a litany of their career, I was losing interest at a high rate of speed because I would always say, hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself very briefly to kind of help us start the conversation? I don't want to hear a 10-minute explanation of where you went to school. I got all that information. Tell me something that I don't know about you. Tell me something that will captivate my interest. Tell me something that will start the fire of excitement for you, your value, your ability, your honesty, your integrity. That's what you want to answer with. So you use that by going to your strengths. If you understand what your 4 or 5 signature strengths are, this writing this VBS is a walk in the park. But if you've never done it before, then you need to go through the worksheet and go through the exercise. And we teach people how to do that. Your successes should be relevant to the job summary. Okay. If you get ready to have some examples, and your examples you have inpatient examples, and then you have a bunch of examples from ambulatory, and this is an ambulatory care company, you want to use the examples that are most relevant for the provider. And you want to be able to give before and after comparisons. When you turn something around or improved it, it was this way, but when we finished, it was this way. We got throughput up. We reduced turnover. We reduced days in accounts receivable. We improved our days in cash on hand. You can't remember all that, because I don't know many people that have that kind of memory. So that's why you keep a journal. Okay. Don't be foolish and not do that. Don't think you're too smart or too good to keep a journal. I guarantee you it will pay you unbelievable dividends going forward. And as you move up in your career, every interview you have going forward, unless your father is the CEO, is going to be harder than the previous job search. Everything from now on is only going to get harder because the competition is only going to intensify. We're never going to have as many management jobs again because computers are going to offset that, and because companies now realize that they can operate effectively without all of that overhead. Don't be surprised if you see Andy Jassy at Amazon. He was furious when he realized why decisions weren't being made, because the company had drifted away from Jeff Bezos' philosophy of, we're a startup, we got to move in a hurry. Now, Bezos, he canceled PowerPoint presentations and meetings. Everybody if you were running the meeting, you brought a memo and outlined all the issues and everything, and everybody spent the first few minutes in the meeting reading the memo. But after Bezos left, they kind of deteriorated into planning the meeting, having the meeting, having a meeting after the meeting to decide what the meeting decided, and then planning the next meeting to advance the information further. Wow, what a bad, bad idea. So you have to understand it's we're moving into an action-oriented environment. It's competitive. You must be able to keep up the pace. You must be able to understand that you're in a competition. And if you aren't the best competitors, you're going to get your butt kicked. And sitting around hoping someone will either somehow you will improve in a job interview is like waiting on the phone for somebody to call you with a dream job that's going to pay you $1 million out of the blue. What are the odds of that? About 0.000%. So don't sit back and wait. Nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen in your job search that you're in today or the one you're going to start in the future unless you get out there and make it happen. You can't, just because you may have been in the business a while and a lot of people know you, that doesn't mean they're going to call you. So you have to be visible. You have to remind them you're there. And you do that with LinkedIn posting. You do that by being active in your professional association. You do that by being a mentor to younger executives. You do that by giving time in your community for things that you will get recognized for. You do that by speaking at conferences. This is it's what it's going to take. And you got to get off your duff and make it happen. If you sit down and wait, it's not going to work out well for you. So the answer is, you just got to do it. Nike was brilliant. This isn't about buying shoes. This is about the whole sort of persona of being fit, of being with the in crowd, of running and exercising and everybody having fun and having fellowship. That's what Nike decided they were selling, not sneakers, not trainers, not elaborately expensive tennis shoes. They were selling an idea and a mindset. And what I want you to do is buy into that mindset. Please, because if you don't, the chances of you being successful going forward are just really, really not. It's not going to be a pretty picture. Okay, sorry to say it that way, but it's just really not. So, in order for you to not be the person who gets kicked your butt to the bench, you absolutely have to be more aggressive. You absolutely have to get your mind out of the old analog way of doing business and get busy becoming a digital ace. It's hard. I know. I was an old-fashioned relationship marketer when I was doing executive search. I worked the telephones. I, did a lot of presentations. Anytime anybody in a chapter would have me speak, I would go speak. And I would promote it, and I would talk about it on LinkedIn and all my other social media channels. I was a speaker here. I did this. I'm traveling to Florida to speak at Florida State. I'm traveling to Michigan to speak at the University of Michigan in their healthcare graduate program. I'm doing this. My speech was on this. You're constantly trying to keep your name out front and establish your credentials. You're somebody who matters. You're somebody who gets it. You're somebody who's innovative. You are somebody who will make a difference. That is what you have to do. And you can't sit back in your office on your tail, hoping something will break for you. If you want to do something great, if you want to start a business and help overseas people get into the 21st century with digital and figure out ways they can make money in their economies, then you have to get off your butt and do it. If you want to be the best hospital CEO in the world, nobody's going to give that to you. You're going to have to work your tail off to get it. And you do that by being the best and being seen as the best and have a lot of weight behind all of your promotional stuff. If you only have fluff, you're not going to be authentic. And that's a bigger sin, I think. So I really want you to know how much I appreciate you being with us today. I also want you to know that we have a lot of opportunity to cover subjects that interest you. So if you have a suggestion, please let me know at john@johngself.com or call me 214-577-5540. I can't get any more text messages and calls I'm getting now from Medicare people trying to sell me Advantage products or people trying to raise money politically. I'm always happy when the elections are over and the Medicare enrollment period is done. Then I can get back to work. But if you need help, call me. If you want to find out about our new membership programs, we're moving to get these things online so you can see them digitally and make your purchases automatically. We're working on that. But if you have any questions, if you have any needs, if you have any concerns, and just want to talk to me for a few minutes and kind of get a read of where you stand and what you need to focus on, I'm happy to help you. That's what we're here for. So I hope you'll take me up on that offer. In the meantime, we will be around. We're going to be around tomorrow. Um, let's see, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Time, we'll be on TikTok. Last week, we had a crowd and a half there and a lot of good questions, and we had a lot of good information. And so we had over 375 people in the group last Thursday night. I'll be there tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Time on TikTok. Just go into the live section. My handle on TikTok is Your Career Success. Your Career Success on TikTok. On Friday morning at 11 a.m., we have Career Live. And basically, it's another opportunity for people to ask questions. And if you don't have a lot of money and you don't feel like you can afford a big coaching package or, even some a la carte items, you can get a lot of information by just being a member and having access to these programs. Right now, these are open to the public, but when we've got membership targets decided, they're in concrete. When we hit those numbers, we're going to start pulling these things offline, and they will be members only event. So, this is a way to find out a lot of information to help you with your career. You can also ask questions. I did not see anything come in today. We're still building an audience. And so, feel free to anytime we're on, either Lunch and Learn on with the Career Live, or if we're on in office hours. If you have a question and you're a member, or whatever, put the question in. It's a way for you to get help without having to spend a lot of money. But you got to be a member to get access to this content. After we reach, they said 50 members, we're going to take Lunch and Learn off and make it we're going to take office hours off and make that a members only. We'll keep Lunch and Learn on, and when we get to be 100 members, Lunch and Learn will go offline and be members only as well. So that's just the way it has to be, because we want to be sure that we offer great information, that we monetize it so we can pay the bills, and that's part of that. My CFO certainly wanted me to mention that. So thanks very much for joining us today. I really appreciate you being here. I look forward to seeing you next week or tomorrow night in TikTok. I know some of you guys are scared to death to go to TikTok. It's not as scary a place as a lot of people say it is. And the community there is one of the most vibrant, engaging, sometimes smart ass, sometimes political hatchet people, but it's active. Unlike LinkedIn, which is more kind of very genteel and people don't want to ask questions, you'll get it on TikTok. And I used to do some stuff on X, but I'm sorry, their values just don't get anywhere close to mine, and that's important to me. And everybody has their own reasons, but that's why we're not on X anymore. But we're also we're on Facebook. Starting and when we start closing these programs off from public view, you will see a place to watch the videos on a private page. It's called Guiding Your Career. It's Facebook. And if you're a member and you want to become a member of that page, that's where you'll ultimately have to be to see our material, our coaching sessions, because those will be members only at some point in the future. It'll be on Facebook, Guiding Your Career. So thanks, everybody. We've got a lot going on, and I've rambled on here about some of our changes, but I appreciate you being with us today. Have a great rest of the week and a good weekend.